Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, and today I'm bringing you my reactions to the news that Neal Maupay will be leaving Everton for Olympic Marseille. So yeah, let's get straight into the news. It's been confirmed tonight that Neal Maupay will be leaving Everton for Olympic Marseille on a loan deal with an obligation to buy. And this deal includes a fee of around 6 million euros all in all. That's all add-ons and loan fees and the obligation to buy itself, all included for Neal Maupay. And he leaves after scoring one goal for Everton in all competitions, coming in a 1-0 home victory in 2022 against West Ham at home. Um, in hindsight, it was probably his best performance in an Everton shirt, that for Neal Maupay. Obviously, he did score that goal, which won us that game. But yeah, I just wanted to give you my reaction, my thoughts to Neal Maupay leaving. And he hasn't had the easiest of times at Everton, hasn't he, Neal Maupay? Obviously coming in under Frank Lampard, what was it, 2 seasons ago? And, you know, there was a lot of expectations around him. Obviously, he's got that price tag which he came with. Obviously, it wasn't a lot of money at the time, but with Neal Maupay, people were coming in expecting him to be a poacher, a goal scorer, and he didn't really hit the ground running straight away, which I think he was probably disappointed about himself. But also, us as Everton fans, we were very quick to talk him down, and I think a lot of Everton fans wrote him off after that first season under Frank Lampard and then under Sean Dyche later on towards the season ended. Because obviously he only scored one goal. And obviously it was a very good finish with his right foot, obviously assisted by Alex Iwobi, and he scored at the Gladys Street end, which won us that game. But he didn't really hit the ground running after that. A lot of Everton fans expected him maybe to get at least 10 goals. He just didn't really materialise that. And obviously that one goal to his name in an Everton shirt, it shows his time at Everton. It shows how he got on at Everton. As a striker, you need to score goals, and he didn't do that. But you know, I think the most difficult thing for him was maybe changing managers. Frank Lampard obviously liked to play with a smaller striker and liked to play with that fast, nippy striker. Once Sean Dyche came in the January of that year, was Neal Maupay going to get a look in? I'm not so sure. He would have opted for Dominic Calvert-Lewin over Neal Maupay every day, and even Damari Gray played up front over Neal Maupay. So I think that was probably disappointing for Maupay in terms of him not getting in the squad. I think as a striker, you want to be on the pitch, you want to be scoring goals, and he wasn't getting in it looking under Sean Dyche, unfortunately. But I think that's because Sean Dyche's tactics, they are more suited to a player who's big up front, who likes to win headers, and Maupay just isn't that player, unfortunately. So he spent the majority of the rest of that season pretty much sat on the bench making 5-10 minute cameos here and there, and he didn't really make an impact off the bench in any of those games. I can picture one against Arsenal where he came on and ruffled the feathers of Alexander Zinchenko in that game where there's a famous picture with Zinchenko stood over him and Maupay pointing up at him. I think that's probably the one cameo performance which you can kind of think back to with Neal Maupay just winding up opponents. That's what he seemed to do all the time. But moving on to the rest of his time at Everton, he spent the remainder of his time pretty much on loan out at Brentford, scoring 8 goals and 4 assists, and that's relatively prolific for Neal Maupay. He played off Ivan Toney, he played off Mbermo. He didn't play as that lone striker up front for Brentford, so I think he maybe had a little bit of a better time there because the system suited him more. He got more opportunities, more balls into his feet, and he is a poacher. He is a quick thinking striker that can shoot on him on he can shoot on instinct and score goals. So I think he did suit Brentford better than us, whereas us we played long balls towards him and it was never going to work. So I was a little bit shocked Brentford didn't actually sign him permanently after the loan move. Obviously, they did have the option, which was a pretty small fee. I'm not exactly too sure what the fee was, but it was a pretty small fee for Neal Maupay at the end of that loan. And they just didn't entertain it, and Maupay stayed at Everton. And at that point, you did kind of think, well, his time at Everton's over. There was a few comments here and there last season while he was out on loan that was made that may have riled the fan base up a little bit. I can name one comment on under Lewis Dunk's post on Instagram that might have riled the fan base up a little bit. And that's just what Neal Maupay does. That was the type of person he was. That was the type of player he was. He liked to wind people up, and I think you combine that with Everton fans that are quite easily wound up. And in the situation we were in the last 2 seasons, it was never going to work. It was always going to be a recipe for disaster. And he doesn't really help himself with some of the comments made towards the fan base, and also some of the videos he's put on Twitter this afternoon haven't really helped him and have maybe tarnished his legacy a little bit. Everton, whatever legacy that was that he left behind, I'm not so sure, but it's kind of left it on a bad note and left his time at Everton on a pretty sour note. But all in all, his legacy that he's left at Everton was a negative one, unfortunately, and But we'll wish him well for the future. Obviously, he's playing in Marseille now, so a little bit of a slower league, a league where he might get a little bit more opportunities on the ball, and but in the Premier League, I think he is past it now. I don't think he's got the ability to play in the Premier League, especially for Everton. So, we'll wish him all the best. Obviously, he leaves on a loan deal, but that will be made permanent with an obligation to buy through Marseille. That will be done next summer, but it gives us a little bit more wiggle room this summer in the transfer window with the 6 million fee that's coming in. So I think it'd be interesting to see before deadline day how we will use that. I'm not so sure, but all in all, we'll wish Neal Maupay the best, but he will be leaving Everton on a loan deal to Marseille, and that will be made permanent at the end of this season. But that is all from me. Let me know your thoughts on Neal Maupay. Let me know your thoughts if I've been a little bit harsh on him. Let me know in the comments, but make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.